Welcome to Paintball TV with Ronnie Hollington and Ross. We're basically going to chat to Don and Ledz from the UK PSF. A lot of people have a lot of questions with the coronavirus and what's happening and what the UK PSF does for the player. So we thought we would introduce you to Don, who not a lot of people know. He's kind of behind the scenes, and Ledz, who pretty much everyone knows from Eclipse and from Tournament Paintball. I think it's important to know what the UK PSF does for us all. So I'll pass you over to Don, and he's going to explain more about the UK PSF.
So, Ronnie, thanks first of all for giving us a chance to have a chat. I'll give you a bit of background on me, because as you say, I've been in the sport for 30 years, but pretty much as a player and as a field owner. But in terms of front and centre and being more well known in the wider community, probably not so much. So I own and run a field in Nottingham. I've done that for 26 years. Played a range of formats from Woods when it very first started through to Superb, but I'm 52 and far too many stones the wrong side of it, so it's not the sport for me. And I'm the current chairman of the UK PSF, and by current we have a situation where that now evolves and different people are going to take the helm to give it a bit of direction. I've been chairman for 19 months.
Cool. And what is the UK PSF as far as the
So the UK PSF is the acronym for the United Kingdom Paintball Sports Federation. It was formed 30 years ago, 1990, and historically it was focused on providing a platform for sites to communicate with each other, and also as a vehicle to communicate between the recreational sport and the legislators. That was the point. It was born out of fear. I was aware of the UK PSF and I'd been involved with the UK PSF because of being involved in paintball, but I wasn't instrumental. It wasn't under my tenure at the point when we were fighting to keep it legal, because that was what happened right the way back at the beginning. And now it really is just a constant in the background, keeping an eye on any changes in legislation that may impact on the sport, liaising with authorities, dealing with health and safety executive, dealing with insurers. It's kind of like a buffer between the fields and the legislators, if I'm honest. But in the last 5 days, it's seen a huge uptick in player interest, and that's because there are some big event providers that have got behind the UK PSF to support, asking players to join. And that's given us a whole new audience to engage with. And that's why I think this is important, really, is the first step in trying to make sure that we can do that.
Because the UK PSF historically has, without UK PSF, we wouldn't have paintball. I mean, every time there's a mass shooting, anything happens, first thing, ban paintball, ban this, ban that. And historically, Steve Ball has really, the cheapest paintball statue really, has protected paintball, and now obviously you guys have taken over the reins. So you've got yourself, Ainsley and Ledz, and what are the roles within the UK PSF?
It's a great question. If I just pick up on your point, so Steve Ball is the person that is synonymous with the UK PSF. For a huge proportion of the last 15 years, it was 100% Steve, and without his hard work and dedication in the background, there wouldn't even be the UK PSF. So I've got to acknowledge that. But there came a point where he realised that it was taking up too much of his time from his own business, from his personal life. So he took the decision to step away. But he didn't just close it down and go, right, that's me done. He went out to the industry and say, look, I think my time is done here. Who wants to help? And that's really how we arrived where we are. We realised that it's actually not healthy to have it all resting on one person's shoulders. We went for a committee initially, and we tried to have a committee that covered all aspects. So a site, retail, trade, player, big game. But if any of you have ever worked on a committee, you'll realise that that's a lot of hot air that really doesn't get actioned and followed on. So over the next 2 or 3 years, it got kind of dwindled down. And so now there's the three of us. But we're the 3-point guys, but everybody that threw their hat in the ring, when they decided to actually step away and streamline it, still said, if you need us, talk to us. So we have a conduit to wherever we need it. It's not just about the three of us. So currently we're the guys involved. but I am not the UKPSF. I just happen to be the person who's the chairman right now. The UKPSF is the whole sport, just all coming together. For
You were
the
the slowest one to step backwards, Don.
Huh?
You were the slowest one to step backwards when we.
Well, I was trying to make it sound a little bit more official than that, but I didn't even understand the question. That was the point. But yeah, so that's what it was.
Cool. And Ledz, I mean, what's your role within the UKPSF?
I mean, all three of us sort of chip in to make, to do all of the jobs, really. We try and sort of, like Don said, when there was 20 of us, 30 of us, nothing really got done. We'd have these meetings and we would sort of, the meetings would actually be quite constructive. I'd always come away from them feeling like we've talked about a lot of really good stuff, and people were then tasked with doing jobs, and then what would happen is they wouldn't do them for whatever reason, because this is, it's a part-time, voluntary thing. So we sort of said, we need to sort of get away from this. And you could sort of say, well, my job, I took on the mantle of talking to the tradespeople, because I don't own a site. Don is a site owner. Ainsley runs, the biggest tournament the UK's ever seen. So the three of us sort of cover all that. I mean, I'm also, a Planet Eclipse, and so I manufacture paintball equipment. So we sort of cover all the bases. But in reality, we all sit there and do the same jobs, so to speak. Don might be the expert on insurance, for instance, or the site side of things. But if there's something we need to talk about, Don doesn't just do it carte blanche. He will get on the phone call for the three of us, and we'll talk it through, and we'll come to what we think is the best, usually quite uneducated sort of answer, if you know what I mean. We're not experts in law or the legal side of things, but we can read documents and we can sort of piece it together, and we can sort of say, well, what's the best thing how do we best approach this, and we do the best of what we think is right.
They also spell check all my documents. They spell check everything I do. I'll put it out there right now. I'm a dyslexic. It's a nightmare. So I have to get it. I send it to them. They red pen it, they highlight it, and then they send it back. So, and that's a fact. So that's why I have to be super careful if I'm responding to posts on Facebook and all the kind of threads, because it takes me about 30 minutes to actually compose it, get it spell checked. And by then I'm 400 comments behind. I've no idea what's going on. So, that is the truth. They absolutely spell check everything for me.
I can relate to that. I have a lot of refunds. So I think, so as a player, for UKPSF player, obviously we've covered they protect paintball, but is there anything more the UKPSF does for the player? And are you also, sorry to give you two questions, but are you also looking to expand upon that as well for the future?
So truth be known, as we said, 30 years ago, the UKPSF was born to protect the sport, and it was kind of driven by the sites. There wasn't the player market there. The player market has seen a huge boom in the last 10 or 12 years, but by then the UKPSF had got itself a little bit established. So we absolutely dropped the ball there. We didn't engage with the player. It wasn't because we don't like the player. Without the player, we don't have businesses. So that's absolutely not the case. But we just felt as though by protecting the sport, by protecting the fields, then the player was actually getting the reward because they had somewhere to go. They had the markers that they could buy. The projectiles were all there. We were all doing everything legal. In the last 15 months, we've tried to engage with the players a little bit more, but by no means were we successful with it. And then I think the recent crisis with the COVID-19 bringing the industry to a grinding halt, it really has focused our minds. We, for the first time, certainly in the last 10 or 15 years, I'm talking to site owners that are going, we might not survive this. We might not get back. And I think that actually has translated into conversations on different Facebook pages in groups. And people say, well, what can we do? So actually the ball's been put on into the other side of the court, because people are now coming to and going, what can we do? Whereas for the last 10 years, I don't think many players have sort of said, please let us join, please let us give you money. So what your question was, what do you get as a player member? And truth be known, you get membership of the club. Yeah, right now you don't get anything. People are saying, well, do I get a badge, or do I get a patch, or do I get a card? And I think it's important that while £5 is still a significant amount of money to some, if you give us £5 and then we give you a £4 patch, we're left with £1 in a pot. So you don't get anything other than knowing you've got membership. Now that's changed. The ground rules have changed a little bit in the last 3 days, because there's quite a lot of the big hitters in the UK that have come out and said, you need to be a member to play my event. And I think they're really riding on the back of quite a few other hobbies that already have this as part and parcel of their standard procedure. You know, if you race remote control cars, if you jump out of a perfectly good plane, if you fish, you've got to have a license. You've got to have some kind of buy-in, and that then supports the infrastructure that supports the sport that you want to take part in. So OMG Events threw their hat in first, and that was just amazing. I spoke to Paul quite a lot before he did it, and he had some concerns, but he felt passionately enough about needing to do it. Ronnie, you literally were minutes behind him with the support.
Well, to be fair, Paul Strutt's a good guy, and I think we're all in the same boat, and for him to be that brave, I think, you know, it's important we back him. And
yeah, and that's been followed by John at Outpost with Badlands and the guys at North v South. I mean, North v South and yourselves, I think your move is even more amazing, because your events are imminent, you know, and it's right on top of. But that has created a second tier of people going, well, I don't like being told what to do. I don't like being told I've got to do it. But it's all the way through our lives, and it's all the way through our sport. I can't bring you a documentation that says you must wear goggles. It's just, as an industry, we know you have to wear goggles. Therefore, you have to wear goggles. I can't give you the legislation that says that there's this number of balls per second or this number of trigger pulls. But as an industry, we've just evolved to something that we know works. It keeps the player as safe as, it makes it as fun as. And so people have bought into it, and they follow those rules because it's for the good of the whole sport. And if you have to be a member of the UK PSF to participate, beyond the recreational player, beyond the first or second timer, there's people going, oh, you're going to stop people coming and having a looking at the big games. We're in conversation about how we can have a day pass. If you're a member of a gym, which you pay for, they'll often give you 5 passes a year so that you can invite your friends. What they're actually saying is, get your mate down here, get them hooked, they'll become a member, we'll make more money. You know, we'll try anything, but we know we need to engage more with the players, absolutely. We are trying to figure out how best to do that. It's quite an interesting, eclectic group of people, and they do seem to have friends and foes. So you start chatting to one person, and he will have a whole raft of people that love him, and then on the other side of the fence, there are people that don't like him. We are a sport where there's winners and losers. We were chatting earlier about Ledz having shot somebody a lot. That's the point.
He might have shot me once as well.
But that's the point. But unfortunately, if you're a player that is good and is shooting a lot of players, most of the players that you've shot won't shake your hand and go, brilliant, you're a great player. They're going to go, that guy's a bit of a whatever, insert your own word. And so there is this like, people wanted to be negative against other players. So it's quite difficult for us to kind of have the middle ground where we can engage with everybody. But we are aware that we've now got 500 players looking at us going, come on then, dance for me. I've paid you my money. I want you to dance. So we know we've got to do it. We've had 4 days to get ourselves up to speed, and we're nowhere near. And Ronnie, if you ask me to dance, I will decline.
You're right there. But I mean, a lot of us, to be honest, I've been guilty myself of letting my player membership lapse for maybe 10, 15 years. And my colleague on the other top left there, I don't think he's ever been a member.
I haven't, no. And it's we were talking about this earlier. It's a really interesting point that, I mean, apart from sort of hearing about it from obviously working for Rob and Ronnie, and the whole history behind the PSF as a player, there was, you know, I'm not sort of going to hide it. There's always that whole, well, you know, what do I get for my money? I know we've touched on a lot of it now, but it's I think from your side, Don, I'm talking to you a lot more. It's always a catch-22, and I think a lot of people, especially sort of probably my generation and younger, are really sort of reliant on actually getting something back, be it some more information, a discount, and I know this is stuff that we've sort of spoken about a lot. I also heard there might be some rumours that certain gun manufacturers might be offering some PSF incentives. That also might just be a very vicious rumour. But I think it's really good that it's been sort of highlighted now that it's not just for the sites, it's for the players as well, and that's sort of really, really important. I mean, why don't you just give us a quick overview for the new player or those like myself who have not ever been a member? How do we go about becoming a member? The options, and also I'm going to do a Ronnie and fire a double question at you. The auto renewal, we've seen a lot on sort of some of the big Facebook groups. People have sort of had trouble auto renewing or not being able to. Maybe just have you could touch on that and just sort of give the players some advice on auto renewing.
Happy to pick up the auto renew. Ledz, do you want to pick up the sign up bit?
Or how you sign up? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's you go to ukpsf.com and you just click register as a player, which is up on the screen now, and you just go through the process. It's pretty straightforward. The auto renewal thing. While we're talking about it, it's. I think we've realised over the last few days that there may be a problem with that auto renewal. It should have been something that was in place, but we think some people are getting slipped through the cracks. So if you remember 18 months ago or earlier than that, then you wouldn't have had an auto renewal, and that's something that we've paid for this new website to be designed and put up online. And one of the reasons for doing it is so that we could have auto renewal, because we can't chase people. People are lazy. If it doesn't happen automatically, people just don't go there. So we knew that, and over the last like we said, a few days, we've realised that there could be a problem with people that have signed up in a certain period, and we've got our IT guys looking into that now. So hopefully that'll be fixed. And I mean, there's two options on there. There's the £5 option for a year, or there's the 5-year option, which is £15. So it's £3 a month. And we put that up there just so people could sort of click the 15 quid, done, 5 years, and away they go. And like Don said, it's, the £5 or the £3 that you pay, it's a drop in the ocean, really. If we, if paintball gets attacked and we've got to go and mount a legal defence, that £5 is going to not help too much. It obviously will help, but if we've got to, get barristers and lawyers and solicitors all involved in doing, fighting for our sport, then the UKPSF membership will vanish very, very quickly. But we want people to join. I mean, we tried to do a free membership a few years back, and it failed horribly. People still wanted to know, even then. I mean, to answer your question, even when it was free, people were saying to me, "What do you get?" And I'm like, "What do you get?" And they're like, "Well, what do I get for my free membership?" And they're like, and I said, "You don't get anything." They're like, "Well, can I get a pen?" Well, I'm like, "A pen? What do you got a pen for?" They're like, "Well, just because it's free." I'm like, "Well, no, I might find a pen for you." That's like weird. So we want everybody to sign up, and it's something that, I think it's very, very important for the sport, and it's also a bit of housekeeping for paintball. I mean, at the end of the day, we're running around shooting at each other with guns. Yeah. So, I mean, you've got to be careful when you do that type of thing, and we're the barrier between the police catching somebody doing something stupid and ridiculous. If there wasn't the UKPSF there, where would they go? Well, you just get done straight away, or that, go to prison, or he'd be whatever. Where now they can sort of come to us and go, "Oh, we've found this guy doing this," and they'll talk to us. I mean, the police don't talk to us about every case, but there'll be authorities that will come and talk to us and say, "Well, what's this going on?" Or, "Can you talk to us?" Or, there might be. But
a lot of that, though, Ledz, is because we've already set the precedents, because we've demonstrated, because we've answered these questions historically. They now already know we're we're a known entity as opposed to the guys doing it behind closed doors. You know, so the 30 years. So to answer your question is, you know, I've been doing it, playing 15 years, but I'm a younger generation. Why should I? Honest answer is no reason, except for the fact that if all the guys hadn't been doing all the work to this point, there's a good chance that you would be in a trampoline park or you would be in an escape room because you wouldn't have paintball as a vehicle. Now, that doesn't mean you should pay more than the people before you, but it's an opportunity to support. But I will say, you can ask me people can fire us 1,000 questions, you know, and ask away, because out of that we will learn, because the UKPSF needs to get better to engage with its players. It hasn't really done it because it hasn't needed to. It hasn't had the player base. So I don't mind being asked. I mean, it's quite difficult when you get the same question. So maybe we need to have an FAQ page on the player membership, because there are probably 5 or 6 questions.
But we need to ask, is one thing, the paying of membership is quite important, because to become a sport and get recognised, you need paid members.
Absolutely.
And sorry, just you missed out those. There is something that you guys are doing that you've forgotten to mention, is the fact that you're trying to get paintball recognised as a sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Alongside the day-to-day and alongside trying to get paintball back open because of the current COVID crisis, in the background, and the reason there was the push for the player membership was because it's an intrinsic part of an application to Sport England to get paintball recognised as a sport. I don't need to convince anybody that plays it. We know it's a sport. I don't need to convince anybody plays it of the benefits, but we needed to be able to scientifically prove it so that the guys that sit on in higher ups can understand why we want it to be recognised as a sport. In conjunction with all the science, which we've already had done, in conjunction with that, we need to demonstrate that there are other people that play it. And you do that by having a bona fide player membership. A lot of people have said, well, why isn't it for free? Because it's instantly discounted, because it's not a membership if it's free. And that's a fact. And 16 to 18,000 is considered the opening gambit. So really, if we were going to put a really solid application in, we should be looking at 2,500 to 3,000 members,
which is half some of the Facebook groups. That there are numerous UK Paintball. Some of those groups are 5,500, 6,000 people plus. You know, and even if you say half of those players play at least twice a year, you know, we're soon there. We're there at 2,500, 3,000 people, not including the more experienced players that might not be on Facebook or not regular Facebook users, or, you know, it should be a manageable target.
It absolutely should be an achievable target. The ball started to roll on Friday morning with OMG coming out in support. And as I say, then everybody else really started to roll in over the weekend and on Monday. And I would say that currently, I haven't got the exact figures, but I would say currently we're sitting about a bump of about 350 members. So the membership was sitting around about 100. So we're probably sitting around about 450 right now. And that's with probably the most positive and sustained drive for players to become members. We know that more will come in, and it's a phenomenal start. And if things like this, Ronnie, give us the platform to answer the questions that people have, then I'm all for it.
I've got 2 quick questions for you, Don. One is, why do we get sports recognition? I mean, what would that gain paintball? And the other question was, obviously with the memberships, what do you have a plan where to spend the money? I know Ledz obviously said if there's like issues for legal fees, etc. But do you have like a plan for future generation of more ingrained paintball? Really?
I'll answer the sports recognition one if you want, Don. So, it's one of the questions that I don't even like to talk about, even though I said I'll talk about it. Is that there's no guarantees at the end of this, that if we go to get sports recognition, there's not a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's potentially a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but it's as in there's. When I read the legislation on it, or the documentation, which is this thick, all that I keep reading it and going, oh, that's good, and it's very vague the way that they write it, because there's lottery grant money that you can get, you know, for clubs or for coaches, for Team GB, you know, things like that. But there's no guarantees you're going to get it. So I don't want to be the person who says, if we get sports recognition, we're going to get, you know, facilities that are going to be built with clubhouses and showers, and, you know, and we're going to get international recognized sports coaches with, you know, nutrition experts or whatever it happens to be. I don't want to say that, because I sort of feel like I'm lying, and we don't want to lie to anybody. We're telling them the truth.
The possibilities open up, though.
Yeah, I mean, you know, yes, the funding is there. There's people that get funded, you know, in all sorts of sports. I mean, you know, through being a sport. And also, once we're a sport, I mean, there's, you know, there might be the end goal of going, okay, can we get it in the Olympics? Well, just because the UK it recognises it as sport doesn't mean the rest of the world is going to recognise it as sport. But, you know, you've got a better chance. And when you talk to someone and you're a sport rather than paintball, what's that? Oh, it's just, you know, it's that load of idiots running around shooting each other. Well, actually, no, it's a sport, and this is, you know, we've proved that now, and we've put our paperwork in, and we've gone and we've done what we need to do. And so, you know, there's potentially lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of benefits. And I think it's and even if none of those benefits come off, being recognised as a sport, I think gives us quite a nice safety barrier for the authorities as well, because we're a sport at that point. You know,
well, I think coming in there in this current climate, if you look at all those sports that have been granted early opening, golf, tennis, cricket, football, you know, they are all recognised sports. There isn't a single hobby that I'm aware of. I'm sure somebody will be typing as I speak, but they've got something to benchmark it against, and it's there. So who knows? If we had it, we haven't. I'm speculating, but if we had sports recognition, maybe we would be now going to government, and rather than explaining who we are, we will be saying we're sport number 49732. And we'd like to open our venues because we fall into all of the other categories that are permitted. So there's potentially loads, but Ledz is right. Even after we get the 1,800 members or more, and we've got all the documentation which we've got, they don't have to give it you. They can knock you back, but it will be an ongoing thing, because we'll just keep going and keep going and keep going. And there are some financial benefits for businesses that could come into play. But again, none of those are guaranteed. None of them are there. Ronnie, you had a second question. I've forgotten what that was.
I have a second question. I've been told by the man running this that we are kind of running out of time, really. So, okay. One sentence each on the future of UK paintball, and then when we've done that, to wrap up, if anyone wants to leave comments on Facebook we'd like to do this again, but we want to educate. Basically, we want to grow paintball is our goal here. To educate people on more events, UKPSF, etc. So if anyone's got any comments about questions for the UKPSF, we will rerun and we'll answer them.
Okay. So my closing lines are: I cannot see how supporting the UKPSF can do the sport any harm, but the potential good is massive. And without a go-to governing body to meet the middle ground, if there are problems, we are susceptible to huge issues moving forward. So the UKPSF for me is a no-brainer.
Okay, Ledz.
I mean, for me, it's probably more than one sentence. I mean, I love doing this. I want the playing public to know that we are here. We can speak. You can speak to us. We're not, you know, a corporate, monster that we can't be spoken to. I'd like to do this again with you guys, and I want you to field questions. Anybody who feels like they've got a question that needs asking, I'd like them to send them to you, and we can come on and I want you to almost list out question, and we can answer them what they are. This isn't my full-time job, UKPSF, and it's not Don's or Ainsley's. And we're not sat there thinking, oh, what's the job that we can do next to make things better for paintball? And because we're doing our own stuff. Negativity destroys us all. You know, I go, you know, why am I doing this when I'm spending my time and effort and energy to do something? I've got a 5 and a 7-year-old who don't appreciate me enough to, you know, they can take that medal. So that kills us. And what I'd like you to ask us the questions. You know, if the ones are sensible, ask us the questions, and we might be missing the thing that all the players want us to do. You know, it could be massive. They might say, we want this, this, and this. You know, people have said on the forums this week, oh, we want t-shirts and merchandise. All right, okay. Well, you know, that doesn't really help anything. It might spread the word amongst the community that we're already in. You know, so we might do something like that. But we really genuinely need, you know, if you need something or you feel we're lacking in a certain department, talk to us. Ask us the question.
I also think people need to realise that you guys are completely free of charge. There's no financial incentive for either any of you three to do it. You're giving up your free time to help paintball grow and to keep paintball going.
Yeah.
I know you can argue we all have vested interests in it, but you guys are doing this free of charge, and that is really, really noble of you guys, and you deserve a lot of respect, not grief. Paintball, we have quite a good paintball community, and I think we're quite tight on the whole. And if we can pull together a bit more and be more positive, I think we could really benefit paintball and grow paintball in the long run. So by all means, please guys, just put comments across and we will do our best to answer them and interrogate Don and Ledz and possibly Ainsley if he can get his camera.
Absolutely. We're open. We're pretty much open books, I think. I mean, it's weird doing podcasts. You're probably a little bit more guarded than we were if we were sat in a pub having a chat. But I don't think you're going to get 3 people down to earth like me, Don and Ains, that can just talk. You know, and we're all players. We started doing this because we love paintball. I mean, you know, I was a player before I started a paintball company, and I'm sure Don was. And you know, and we love the sport. I mean, Don. I mean, my entire livelihood is created through paintball. Where I know Don, you know, his site has multiple activities, and you know, he might say, well, it's only 10, 20, whatever % of his revenue, but he still sits there and does all of this and takes the grief. And sometimes I'm embarrassed about that, but he's a good guy, Don. He's a very, very good chairman.
I think
that's another thing that's really important to get across who Don is, because obviously I've known you for quite a while, Don, but he is you've got a really good heart and you care passionately about paintball. And I think a big mistake a lot of us make, and I bring this to site owners as well, we don't play paintball enough. We forget how much fun it is to play paintball. And one thing I respect Ledz for, he owns I will keep this neutral, but he owns a good paintball company, okay? And everyone knows my feelings on the subject. But he plays paintball regularly, and that is really important. And there are lots of people out there that are ambassadors for paintball and deserve a lot of respect, like Twizzle. You've got Mike Tate, amongst others. They go out there and promote paintball positively. And I'll always defend them to the hilt because I feel they are out there on the front line actually growing paintball and spreading the word and doing something positive for it. And I think as a community, we need to get behind all the people that do that and not give them a hard time, but help share their content and as they grow it, really.
You don't do something for 32 years that you don't love. And that's how long I've been in it, 32 years. Now, I don't care whether you've been in it 2 years or 32. If you love it as much as me, we're equals. It's not about time served. It's about passion and belief in the sport. But you don't do something for 32 years if you don't love it. And I absolutely love it.
On that note, Joe wants us to wrap up. So, as I said, if you've got any comments, stick them in the box. And guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time. And I do think, as an industry, we need more content on the internet, and we need to start to use social media more wisely and promote and grow paintball, because it's by far the most fun thing I've ever done. And sometimes we forget that, and we need to spread the word.
I think the key message here, just before we wrap up, is from sort of the industry guys, is we're not really anything without the players. And, you know, what we do is for the players. And, you know, we've all sort of touched this, but we need the feedback. The PSF need the feedback. Event organisers, you want the feedback, you know, be it a quick PM message or a chat, or, you know, just help everyone see it from the other side. So any comments, be it if you would like to keep them sort of private, feel free to message one of us. If not, drop them in the comments box below. We are hoping to do this again next week with some of your top comments, and then maybe even move to live at some point soon. But thank you everyone for watching. Don, Ledz, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you all soon.
All right.
Thanks a lot, guys.